Good afternoon, everyone. I'm doing another little video here on selecting renters for your rental homes. I talked about this a little bit the other day, and I did a video while I was in my truck, so I wanted to go ahead and do this again. Go ahead and write it down in kind of a view graph like, and this will be part two of selecting renters for your rental homes. Income, I talked about that the other day, and don't rent to anybody with real low income. 25% of their income should be available for rent or mortgage payment. That's a formula that banks use, and that's a really good formula to use because they've got electric bills to pay, they've got cable, they've got a phone bill to pay, water and sewage, and they've got lots of other bills, and they got to buy food too. So they need to have sufficient income. So if your rent's $1,000 a month, then they need to have about $4,000 a month income. And I would stick to that pretty religiously, because if you don't, you're going to wind up with problems of them not being able to make their rent. So they need to have ample income to be able to pay their rent. And if they don't have ample income, they're going to be really skimping, and it's going to be hard for them. Applications. I suggest that you take applications. Do not necessarily rent to the first person that comes along. And take the applications, write all the information down, and check your renters out. There are renters that they'll rent a place, they'll put down a first month's rent and a deposit, and then they won't pay any more rent, period. And it takes the owners about 3 or 4 months to get them out, because they'll give them a break for a month or two. The people will promise to pay, they'll give them a break for a month or two, and the people won't pay. And then when you start the process of taking them to court and getting an eviction, that'll take you about a month or a month and a half. So they wind up getting about 4 months of rent free. So you need to, if your people don't pay the rent on time, then you need to go ahead and start the court process. Go ahead and start sending them a letter and taking them to court, because a lot of people, a lot of renters will play that game. They'll take advantage of you. So you need to stay on top of them and not start giving them a break because they're not going to be able to make the rent this month for some reason, because next month it liable to be another reason. Job hopping and house hopping. If a person does not have a job, a good job history, that is, if they only been at their job for 6 months, and the job they had before then was like 6 months, and so forth, then it's not a good person to rent to, because they're hopping around from job to job, and they're going to probably be out of a job. And if they're out of a job, they're out of money to pay the rent. So they need to have good, stable job history. Also, the same is true with rental history. If they've lived at the previous place that they're living at right now, if they've lived there for 4 or 5 years, that's good. But if they only lived there for a couple of months, and they lived at the place where they lived before for a couple of months, 3 or 4 or 5 months, then they're having problems with landlords or whatever in their hop housing. They're just jumping from house to house to house. You don't want to rent to these people who are job and house hopping. Definitely do not rent to them. Also, and we run into this a lot, renting our houses out. A lot of people say, well, you're going to have to wait to payday because I don't have the rent money in the deposit right now. Or they won't be able to make all the money, all of it just on payday. They'll say, well, you have to work with me on the deposit. Well, if they don't have the rent and deposit money right now, then they're probably not going to have the rent money when it becomes due. So it's best not to rent to these people that don't have the rent and deposit money right now. They're not very financially responsible if they don't have some money saved up and can go ahead and pay the rent and deposit right immediately. Also, another thing, references. Take some references from these people, and you need to beware of some of the references. Like I said, landlord references sometimes are not good references. The landlord may be giving them a good reference just so they can get rid of them. So you need to kind of beware of landlord references and beware of some other references. I mean, families certainly are going to give people good references. So take your references and call these people and talk to them. I mean, it's a good idea to do that. But once again, you got to be aware of some of the references that you get for people. But anyway, that's it. Selecting your renters for rental homes, part 2. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have, please subscribe. I'll be posting more videos about rental properties, fixing up old properties, and all sorts of other things. So if you like my videos, please subscribe. Thanks a lot, and you folks have a nice day.